It was a busy afternoon at a popular restaurant, the kind of place where the hustle and bustle rarely stopped. A black man walked in, his presence calm but confident, scanning the room as though he knew it well. Within moments, a white manager approached him, her expression sharp and her tone cold. She demanded he leave, making it clear she didn't think he belonged there. But this wasn't just any customer. What the manager didn't know was that this man wasn't some stranger off the street. He was the brother of the restaurant's owner. What unfolded next was both shocking and eye-opening, as the truth came to light in a way no one in the room could have anticipated. Stay tuned as we unravel how a simple assumption led to a moment that no one, especially the manager, would ever forget. You don't want to miss this story. The man, dressed in a clean but modest outfit, didn't flinch at the manager's sharp words. Instead, he calmly asked, "Is there a problem?" His voice was steady, but the question seemed to irritate her even more. The manager crossed her arms and pointed toward the door, insisting, "This is a private establishment, and we don't allow loitering." What she didn't notice were the subtle glances from a few staff members, who seemed to recognize the man but stayed quiet, unsure of what to say. He gave a small, knowing smile and replied, "I've been here before, plenty of times. I think you might want to check with the owner before asking me to leave." The manager scoffed, dismissing his words as though they meant nothing. She clearly didn't believe him. But the tension in the room was growing, and the employees exchanged nervous looks. Something big was about to happen. The manager let out a dismissive laugh, her frustration barely concealed. "I don't need to check with anyone," she said sharply. "I'm the manager here, and I think I know who belongs and who doesn't." The man simply raised an eyebrow, still calm but with an undeniable air of authority that didn't match her assumption. He took a step forward, not aggressively, but enough to catch the attention of a waitress standing nearby. "Excuse me," he said to her politely, "would you mind letting the owner know I'm here?" The waitress hesitated, her eyes darting between the man and the manager. She looked uneasy, as though she recognized him but wasn't sure how to act in the moment. Before she could respond, the manager cut in. "That won't be necessary. You're not going to disrupt this place any longer. Leave, or I'll call security." But as the words left her mouth, a figure stepped out from the back, a familiar face that instantly silenced the room. The tension in the air thickened as the employees watched, waiting to see what would happen next. The figure walking out from the back was a tall man in a sharp suit, his expression calm but unmistakably firm. It was the owner of the restaurant, and as soon as the staff saw him, a quiet murmur swept through the room. The manager's confidence faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered, eager to explain herself. "Sir, I was just handling this situation," she said, motioning toward the man she'd been trying to kick out. He was loitering and refusing to leave. The owner's eyes shifted to the man in question, and for a split second, there was a flicker of recognition. His serious face softened slightly as he stepped closer. "Loitering?" he repeated, his voice calm but with an edge of disbelief. "Are you sure about that?" The manager hesitated, suddenly unsure, but she pressed on. "I'm just following policy," she said defensively. "We can't let anyone hang around who doesn't belong." The owner turned to the man and smiled faintly. "Well," he said slowly, "I think it's time we clear this up. Tell me, what exactly did my brother do to make you think he doesn't belong here?" The room fell dead silent. Every eye was on the manager as her face drained of color. The tension was unbearable, and even the staff seemed frozen, waiting to see how this explosive moment would unfold. The manager stood frozen, her face a mixture of shock and confusion. "Your brother?" she stammered, glancing between the owner and the man she had tried so hard to remove. The weight of her mistake was starting to sink in, but the owner wasn't finished. "Yes," he said, his voice steady but firm. "My brother, who has every right to be here." In fact, he paused, letting the silence hang in the air. He's not just family. He's a part of this business. The staff exchanged stunned glances, but before anyone could speak, the man finally broke his silence. "I was supposed to be here for a meeting," he said, his voice calm but laced with an edge. "We were going to talk about how things are running." He let the words linger, making it clear he wasn't just some casual visitor. As the reality hit, the manager's defenses came up. "I didn't know," she said quickly, her voice shaky. He didn't look like someone who... She stopped herself, realizing too late how her words might sound. But the damage was already done. The room tensed even more as the owner's expression darkened slightly. "You didn't think he looked like someone who belonged?" the owner asked, his tone sharper now. He stepped closer to her, and the weight of his words was impossible to ignore. "Maybe we need to have a conversation about what belonging really means here." The manager's face turned pale as whispers spread among the staff. But before anything else could be said, the man looked around the room, his eyes scanning the staff and the customers, as though he had something bigger on his mind. Then he looked back at his brother, a knowing look passing between them that hinted this wasn't over yet. The room was so silent, it felt like time had stopped. The manager stood there, her mouth opening and closing, unable to find the words to defend herself. The owner shook his head, disappointment written all over his face. This restaurant was built on the idea that everyone, staff, customers, everyone, deserves respect, he said firmly. "We don't judge people by their appearance, and we certainly don't make assumptions about who belongs." The man, still calm, finally spoke again. "I wasn't just here for a meeting," he said, his voice cutting through the tension. "I was here to see how the staff treats people when no one's looking. And now I've seen enough." The manager's eyes widened, realizing this wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a test. The owner nodded, confirming what she feared. "We've been thinking about some changes in management," he said pointedly. "And after today, it's clear who embodies the values of this place and who doesn't." Just as it seemed the story had reached its peak, the man turned to the employees who had stayed silent earlier. "I saw you recognize me," he said, his tone not angry, but serious. "You knew, and yet you didn't speak up. Why?" One of the waitresses hesitated, her voice trembling as she admitted, "I was afraid I'd lose my job if I said anything." The man's expression softened slightly. "No one should ever feel scared to do the right thing here," he said. "We're not just running a business. We're setting an example." The owner nodded, addressing the entire room. "Starting today, we're going to make sure every single person here knows what this place stands for. And for those who can't live up to it," he glanced back at the manager, "it's time to find somewhere else." As the manager quickly gathered her things and walked out, the man turned to his brother. "I think we've got some work to do," he said with a small smile, leaving the audience with a reminder that true change comes from action, not words. As the manager left, the room slowly began to return to life. The staff exchanged relieved glances, and a few even smiled hesitantly at the man who had just shaken up everything they thought they knew about the day. He gave them a reassuring nod, making it clear he wasn't angry, just determined to set things right. The owner put a hand on his brother's shoulder. "Let's start fresh," he said. "From now on, this restaurant won't just be about good food. It'll be a place where people feel welcome, no matter who they are." The man smiled. "That's exactly why I came here today," he said. "Change starts at the top, and now everyone knows what that looks like." As the brothers walked toward the back to plan their next steps, the staff felt a renewed energy in the room. It wasn't just a restaurant anymore. It was a lesson in respect and inclusion.